Makers, la mette in mezzo, bella tiro, gol! Luka Modric, ha segnato Luka, ecco il gol del maestro!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Oli Fisher, joined once again by Anthony, the incomparable Torgrud.
I think you've used that one before, but it is one of my favorites, so we'll run with it, you know?
Yeah.
Can't be conquered. I'm a wild horse, if you will, an unbreakable horse.
Untamable.
I don't know. Untamable. There we go.
It's probably untamable, but
fuck it.
Yeah. We're here. We're back. We've got a couple of nice games to talk about after the two draws that we had to recap in last week's episode. Of course, we are referring to the away victory against Como and then the narrow home victory against Lecce, but it's 6 points on the board. Things are looking a little bit rosier in the table, even if we haven't trimmed the gap to our cousins in top spot. But it's going to be a bit more of a positive episode. And of course, we will have the big 6-pointer at the Stadio Olimpico on Sunday against Roma to preview. And then, as we've just discovered, literally right before recording, we've then got like 9-10 days without a game. I think we don't
14.
play again until... Oh, wow. Yeah, okay, there you go. That's a long-ass stretch without a game after we've had 5 in 18 days. That's serious scheduling for you. But yeah, action-packed episode to come. Before we dive into it, thank you as always to our Substack founding members who are scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. Hoping to add some new names to that in the coming days and weeks. And as a reminder, if you do join up and become a founding member, you will get a shout out as soon as your name is added to the list. So, you know, if you want to hear me butcher a pronunciation or whatever it takes to get you on board, we would love for that to happen. Over on the Substack, you can find content such as the most recent pub chat that Lorenzo and Stefano put out yesterday on Monday is about how the deputies, after being perhaps a little bit scrutinised in the early games of the season for not providing what was hoped for, especially those who have arrived as new signings, they've shown a bit of growth in the last few games. We're going to talk about some of those performances, of course, in our match recaps. But as you can see there, you've got Kone De Vinter, Zaka Takame, Samuel Ricci, and Adon Jashari have had more minutes recently. So yeah, goes through each of those. Of course, Nkunku, I guess you could say, is still technically a deputy when everybody's fit, and even he's had a resurgence in recent weeks. So yeah, go through each of those and how they are now contributing to the cause after a bit of a quiet start to the season. The instant reaction after the Lecce game was done by Stefano. Of course, he spoke for large parts of it about the impact that Nicholas Füllkrug has made and the in-game tweaks that enabled us to take all 3 points from that. The most recent bonus podcast that me and you did late last week was a mailbag special because of how action-packed. We'd had 4 games to talk about in the last main pod, so we didn't get to any questions. We answered the ones that we didn't get to in that. And we also went through the leaks for the 3 kits for next season, the home, away and third. And they're looking pretty good. So yeah, go check those out if you haven't seen the leaks. We like what we see. Most recent bonus article that Isaac did was about how the scheduling works in Serie A in terms of which teams, which games get put in each slot. A lot of it has to do with broadcasting as a mini spoiler for that. But he goes into why Milan had to play Genoa at home and Fiorentina away in less than 66 hours when FIFA are trying to bring in a minimum 72-hour regulation. And yeah, again, it's all about TV and the power that holds over Italian football, despite, as he spoke about in his last bonus article, generally the TV rights package being undersold by Serie A, something that they're trying to fix. But it's very interesting reading in terms of how that might change coming up, and hopefully a bit more money coming into the club's coffers. Right, let's go into the first game that we've got to talk about. Nice little Thursday night trip to the lake. You've been to Lake Como, I believe.
I sure have, yeah.
You like it?
Yeah.
How can you not?
Water. Yeah.
Bit of water, bit of H2O knocking about. Bottle of water. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? We went and it was roasting hot summer's day.
Yes, it was.
And we decided we didn't climb up the peak, because there's the funicular railway thing.
Yeah.
But we went all the way down, and my God, I think I must have lost about 2 stone during that. I was dripping. It's quite an uneven place, to be honest.
But it very cool. We went on May 4th, and that is relevant because that's where the Star Wars place is, and that was unintentional. We didn't plan that. We just happened to be in Milan around that week, and then that was the day that we picked as our day trip to Como, and then said, "Hey, it's the Star Wars day. Let's go to the Star Wars place." And well, got the fucking picture. Cool.
Were there lots of Star Wars fans that had gone on that particular day?
Probably. So we were in like a massive rush because again, we didn't plan it out, so we were like kind of short on time, and it's a bit of a hike to the villa from where you get let off unless you get like a private boat. And I mean, I just don't got it like that, so we took the ferry, and then we had to haul ass up the hill, and it was like a mile and a half. It wasn't anything crazy, but you know, when you're in full clothes with like a backpack and shit, like it's a bit of a trek, and then May heat, so not ideal. But we got there, took one photo, looked around, and ran back down because we had to get to our boat before we missed it, which, spoiler, we did. Then we needed a 2-hour long taxi drive around the entire circumference of the lake to get to the train station, only to find out our train was delayed and we did not need to rush at all. So
oh my god,
yeah.
how much was that?
Go Italy. Oh, it was like over $100 because the only one that had it was the hotel villa there, which was like a really nice one. So it was not actually a taxi, it was like a private escort. So we had to pay a lot. It was a big black SUV and tiny roads in Como. It was actually
maybe you do got it like that.
I didn't have a choice.
Yeah, you had to. You just had to. Yeah, no, it's a stunning place, and I do think that since they came up, they've been an asset to the league, and it's probably helped by the fact they have potentially the richest owner in the league, and they're a pretty serious project. I mean, we did a little bit of a deep dive into Como in the preview, of course, but I was fearful of this particular game. I thought that they're sort of one of those teams that are full of talent, full of energy, full of confidence at the moment, in a European spot as they were, and they've gone back into one after our Oli and Lazio last night. But I just thought this had all the recipes for our unbeaten run to end. I thought they'd just overpower us. And I'm not going to lie, I think for like 80 out of the 90 minutes, I was kind of right. But thankfully, I was wrong about the result, and that's why I'm like doubly happy. This was not pretty for like a long time, to be honest. I was going to put the team up quickly while you talk through the opening.
Yeah, I mean, we were getting cooked, man. Like from start to finish, at least to the first half, nonstop. Obviously, we concede in the 8th or 9th minute. Corner kick. Bartezaghi leaves his man completely unmarked. He's on him, goes zonal, and then just leaves him, which then left, I believe it was Rabiot or Fofana, who was behind Bartezaghi's guy. And if a ball's coming to the front of your face, it doesn't matter who's behind you, you're going to get it first. So that happened, and then it was just almost point blank. So Mike didn't really have a whole lot to do for it. Went in. It is what it is. It was Dacuna, right?
Dacuna,
and so good goal, but kind of irritated. We're like, all right, here we go. 9 minutes in, we've been battered in those opening 9, and now we're already down a goal. It did not stop there. It continued. There was a moment that they really should have scored another goal where Mike made a wonder save. And by that, I mean, it just hit him in the face at point blank, and then dropped down to his feet. And everyone just kind of looked at it like, wait a minute, this should be in. And it wasn't. And then we were able to clear it. But bit of panic there. And again, it just continued. We were getting battered. And then all of a sudden we have one breakaway. And look, I might catch heat for this, but we got a really dubious penalty. I did not think we deserved it. I didn't think it was a penalty. I still don't think it was a penalty. Final scoreline was 3-1, so it doesn't matter if we counted or not, but probably did, and what determined the future of the game. But Rabiot wins a penalty. Soft challenge, and then Nkunku lines up. He takes it. Bad penalty, right down the middle, right at the keeper. But a few weeks ago, when he took a penalty, you had made a comment that got slated in our comment section, and it was, the power that he took it was impressive. People said it doesn't matter how hard you hit a penalty. Well, when you shoot it right at the keeper and he gets his entire hand on it, but you hit it so fucking hard that it still deflects and bounces in behind him, the power does matter. So, there you go.
Am I 1-0 up over our comment section?
You are.
You're what we're saying?
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I think Allegri did his usual thing where he doesn't watch, so he turns his back to the penalty and he kind of judges off the reaction of his staff. And he turned around when he'd seen it and he said, "Oh, so he took a shit penalty and still scored." was what he said. Again, love Max for the little moments like that. There needs to just be a Max cam for every single game. But yeah, I just think, look, I've got the starting lineup there. There's not too much to talk about aside from the fact that Pulisic Leao was broken up once again. I think, like we said after the game, so he had Pulisic to be able to bring on, if the game situation dictated, to just give that little bit of extra. And also, I think he knew that a lot of our chances would come in transition. So he played potentially the two best players suited to that in terms of their speed and athleticism. But he kind of picked what, obviously with Pavlovic still absent with 9 stitches in his head, picked pretty much an obligatory back 3. And then the rest is as you'd expect. That's kind of what we've become accustomed to here. But yeah, as I was saying, the first half was really, really rough watching. It was Mark-Oliver Kempf who scored the header from the corner.
Kempf,
yeah, ghosted in there. And, I've done my rants about zonal marking before, so I'd just be repeating myself from previously. But I think in the Fiorentina game and in this game, there's back-to-back goals conceded from set pieces. We've kind of shown why it's just not working for us, because teams have already figured out that all you have to do is curl in an in-swinger, and they're most likely will be the biggest man on the field able to get there first. And it can't continue like that. I think we really do. We've got some tall guys in there. I think De Vinter's tall. Obviously, Bartazagi is tall. Let himself down a little bit for this particular goal. Gabia down the middle is tall. Rabiot's tall. In the games where Füllkrug starts, he's tall. Leao's pretty tall. Like, there is no reason for not going man to man, because we're gonna hopefully be able to win the majority of these battles that take place inside the box. So that needs to change. But the goal goes in. No sitting back from Como at all. They just went straight for our jugular. And this is where the Mike Maignan show really begins. Batterina, there was a bit of surprise. Their summer signing, who I thought looked absolutely outstanding, by the way. He was just incredible. Yeah. Every single bit of service that went in was on a plate. He fed D'Cunha, who shot over the bar. Then there was one where where he feeds Nico Paz, and Maignan makes brilliant stops. It was just, it was rough. It was rough. Yeah. They just completely overpowered us, as I kind of thought might happen, and we couldn't play out. Like, you sort of wondering, where is all this energy coming from? Because we've all played so many games and stuff, and they just have a rabid press. We knew it was coming because they've got the lowest PPDA number, which is the pressing metric, and they've overtaken even Inter in that regard, who obviously in theory have a bit of a deeper squad to be able to rotate and stuff. But yeah, they put us to the sword a little bit, and then I'll display the Maignan saves now, because this really is the reason that we were able to stay in the game. That one in the top left is actually in the second half, but just incredible again from Nico Paz. Whips it with first time his left foot, and he just gets down to it and tips it around the post. That is a world-class save. Then you've got the one in the top right. I can't remember if that was D'Cunha or if it was the striker Duvlakis, but that's the one where the ball comes in, and it's close range. I don't think he knows too much about it. It just sort of hits him twice in quick succession. But again, he stood tall to it. You've got to be in the right position in case the ball comes in. And then that one in the bottom left is from Duvlakis, where he takes a touch and he hits it first time. Got the better of his man there. That one wasn't as impressive. Then in the bottom right, again, sorry if you're listening and not watching, but one-handed save with his right, dive in after Paz tries to curl it in at the near post. I mean, what a reel this is from Mike, and he continues to win us points, and he is the reason that going into halftime we even had a possibility of being level. Yeah. It was just an outstanding goalkeeping display.
Yeah, I mean, he crushed it. I will say, I know we talk about him every time his name comes up in here, but Nico Paz, that kid's fucking going places. Well, we know where he's going. He's going around Madrid in the summer, but I mean, he's going to slot right in and start for them, I bet. I would not be surprised if that guy has like a generational run in the next, 5-6 years. Because how old is he now? He's still early 20s, right? He's 22.
Yeah, 22, 23, something like that.
Yeah. Let me just check, because I don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, every time I see him, I'm just so impressed with him. He's 21.
Yeah. Wow.
World Cup year for him.
I just think as well, like, when you can tell a player's levels above, like when I look at him, there's part of me that thinks like he shouldn't really be brilliant in Serie A. normally when you get those pure technical playmaker types, we kind of seen it with Brahim Diaz. They're slightly different, but you try play them in that hole and they're marked out of games because in Italy a lot of teams go man to man or they play 3 centre backs and they can be negated. Like the art of the pure number 10 seems to have kind of gone out of Italian football, and this kid is just magical. He's brought it back. He looked, he was. Everything he does is productive. I just love players like him, and he was unlucky in the end not to have a couple of goals. I know he got a couple last night against Lazio, so he's on like 8 for the season now, which is just ridiculous considering everything. But he was a joy to watch, as you say. I thought Batterina was really good. I thought Da Cunha did have a good game. The left centre back Jacopo Ramon looked pretty good as well. Como have built a very interesting and talented team there. And
not good enough for Lorenzo though.
No, not good. No. That that was funny, wasn't it? At full time, imagine rating Como, and not only did we win, so we're all happy, but then also they went and won 3-0 at Lazio last night, so they're just back to being good again. But there was a bit of, I'm not going to lie, there was a bit of a divide within the SempreMilan camp about how the game was going to go, and I was one of those that was fearful. And I think after 40 minutes, everybody could kind of see why. Lorenzo did even actually say, "Yeah, Como are actually good." And then, of course, we turn on the Corto Muso smash and grab stuff, and they're crap again. So, let's move on to, you said at the penalty, there's nothing really to add there about how the penalty was taken. Hit it low and hard, and you've always got a chance of the ball going in, even if it has to squirm under the goalkeeper, as it did in this case. I thought Butez had a horrible game, actually. I'm not going to lie. There's been some talk about him, if Maignan were to leave, being one of the potentials to be lined up, and... I just don't. I don't see it. I don't think he had a good game at all. And as for the penalty itself, I'm surprised that it was upheld for 2 reasons. First of all, I thought that they'd find fault with the Salamanca's challenge that leads to it, which once again, and I'll point this out again, it was mentioned in the tactical analysis. Every single time there's been a game where we've been overrun down the middle, as was happening time and time again, Allegri does the thing where he just tells Salamanca's to move inside and start playing centrally. He did it against Roma, he did it against Inter, and you'll just see him pop up in midfield, or in this case, over on the left side, wins the ball back, and all of a sudden we're able to spring this break. It's a nice sort of feed into Rabiot, who's in full gallop by the point that the challenge, shall we call it, comes in. I thought it was a bit of a naive tackle to make. But also you can make the argument that if he doesn't, then it's just a one-on-one opportunity, and it probably leads to a goal anyway, at least based on the way Rabiot was finishing in this particular game. I also thought, seeing the replay time after time, that there wasn't even any contact. So
I still haven't seen
the screen. Yeah, but then the TNT commentators said, watch the back leg, watch Rabiot's back leg, and it sort of does get grazed a bit as he makes a stride across him as he goes behind him. And I think he's bought it a little bit. I actually don't think that's enough for him to go down. But, you could argue it's smart play. You could argue it's dark arts. I'm probably somewhere in between. But it gave us the moment that we needed to get ourselves back into the game. And then, second half's a bit of a different story, really. I mean, we know that we've been a bit of a two-faced team this season, where we often punt one half into the lake, topically in this case, and then in the second half we're able to manage things a little bit more. But I can't say that in the second half we were dominant. I think it was just a case of once again seizing another opportunity at the other end and then being able to manage the game from there. There was a header that Maignan did well to save, and then the save that I showed before from Nico pass, which was probably the save of the night, that one down low to his left. And it's like, here we go again. We're just hanging in there. We're trying to survive. And then, up at the other end, we take the lead. Salamanca's ball to Leao, and he kind of drifts in off that left position. I noticed he had a bit more freedom to roam wide in the second half, and he lifts one over the defender. Rabiot's making that running behind, and it was a bit of a a bit of a message to Como. That's how you finish a chance on the left side of the box. Hits it low and hard. I think it goes through Butez's legs, to be honest. But it's a narrowish angle, and good finish.
It was one of the best goals I've seen in a while for a lot of reasons. The main one being the assist from Leao to essentially just chip it over the back line, under pressure while moving there. And Rabiot's just making that run, almost like telepathic communication, which we haven't seen since Theo and Leao were in their primes together a few years ago. And then Rabiot just chests it down and on the half turn just smashes it like an actual striker. It was a great shot, and I was just blown away. I'm like, there's no way that just went in. That was so good. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It was one of the best goals I've seen in a long time. Maybe I'm being hyperbolic, but just everything that went into it, the athleticism and the technical aspect of that goal was so much better than like just a banger from 40 yards, those are incredible too. Don't get me wrong. But that is just like hit it really hard and try and keep it low. Whereas this one, it was like, okay, I got to chip this back line that's also defending. I got to make sure my midfielder's making a run between the lines, and I got to chest it down. I got a half turn volley. I got a no look pass. Like a bunch of crazy shit went into that goal, and everything just played out well. And then I think that almost broke Como. Like they had more chances after that, but that was when I think they were like, what the hell? Like we should be up. And the mentality shift when that happens to you, when you're so clearly the better team from start to finish at that point, and then all of a sudden you're losing because of what you could argue was a bullshit penalty, and then just one of the most well-executed wonder goals you've ever seen, you go, like, we can't beat them. Yeah, it's not our night. And it definitely looked like it, because at that point, I really feel like we were able to just kind of sit back and chill a lot more. Obviously, like we were pinned back most of the game, but this time it felt like it was, more our own decision to absorb that pressure. And they were still trying. They had a few shots. Nico Paz still incredible, great shots on goal. Some of the ones you put up were after that moment. But it
hit
just
the bar as well, which wasn't on there because it wasn't a save. But it's like he must have been thinking, "What the fuck do I have to do to get a goal here?" Another one whose luck was out on the night. But yeah, we made a few.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I made a few changes that I thought were actually quite smart. Füllkrug came on to replace Nkunku. Then RLC and Jashari came on for Fofana and Leao, who both looked pretty tired, to be honest. So, I think that the pressure had kind of, and they probably both aren't 100% either. So, they came on and they added a bit of energy and a bit of physicality in the midfield battle, which I think stopped us getting too penned in. And then Füllkrug obviously was the outball for when we were trying to counter, so that made a lot of sense. And then a bit after, I think it was Rich who came on, and then Jashari came on later with Atakame, with Modric and Salamakers coming off. So the changes kind of made sense in this one. And then just after we'd made the final two, we scored the killer goal, and it was Rabiot getting his second of the night. It was sort of out of nowhere, really. It was a throw-in on the right-hand side, and Como just kind of switched off a little bit. Füllkrug was involved. The ball was played in field to Rabiot, and he kind of lets it roll across him, and he just hits it first time and goes for the near post bottom corner. Butez reacts, I think, a little bit late to it, but it's a hell of a strike. It's a rocket, and it's perfectly placed. It's so precise. And I think it's interesting because, again, the topic came up in the build-up to the game about us getting less production from our midfielders compared to some of our rivals at the top of the table. And Allegri saying in press conferences, I do expect midfielders to score more. I think more goals are coming for Rabiot. And then Rabiot's like, all right, yeah, can do if you want. Yep. And then, scores a brace and wins a penalty. Yeah. Do that more, please. We see Fofana in these shooting positions, and it never usually ends well. But with Rabiot, so far, when he takes aim from outside the box, it seems to find the corner. So it's like a heat-seeking missile, and it was a brilliant goal. I loved the celebrations as well. Basically, the entire bench emptied out onto the pitch over near our fans in the corner, and it felt big. Like I put a message in the group chat the next morning. Because obviously I log on for work after the morning after every game. I've always got a bit of a lasting feeling from the night before. If it's a bad result, really don't want to do this. It's going to be negative press and stuff. But the buzz that I felt after that game and going into the next day was probably bigger than anything barring the derby so far this season. It felt like a statement, that we'd gone there. We're the first team to beat them in their home stadium this season. They'd conceded 5 goals at home all season. We just went and made it 8. It just felt like one of those results where everyone kind of sits and takes notice and they're like, oh, okay, maybe they are for real. And I was so happy to be wrong about the scoreline that I predicted, about, saying that we'd get overpowered and beaten. I do think on another night, if Lady Luck wasn't on our side, we are potentially talking about a 3-1 defeat. And, we can come on to the stats in a second. But yeah, just that goal, the way that it sealed the game, beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I think that really could be a turning point. Like, obviously, Inter haven't slowed down. Napoli only slowed down a hair. Como's still good. Like, Roma's still winning. Juve's the only one that's, up and down, but they were on a great run. Like, the Scudetto race is nowhere near over. That win felt like one of those games that really could propel you towards a championship. And I was talking to a couple buddies the other day, and one of them's a Milan fan, one of them's an Inter fan, and we were talking about how Croatia picked my city as their World Cup base. And we were talking about that and Modric being here. And even the Inter fan said he's going to arrive as a Serie A champion. And I was like, okay, you're seeing it now too. Because the week prior, he was saying the exact opposite when we dropped points. So it was, so I think everyone just kind of felt it like, oh, this team has that thing in them. You know how, like, when Juve went on their 9 Scudetti run, there were a lot of moments where you're like, yeah, they should have lost that game, but somehow they found a way. It's always the Scudetto winner that when you look at a lot of those critical games, you say, what was the moment that they won the Scudetto? It's almost always a game where they're either trailing or it's a tie. And then in the last 10 minutes, they just pull out exactly what they need and they find a way. And this felt like one of those games where we find a way. And the last goal from Rabiot, like you said, good throw in. Füllkrug got involved a little bit. He didn't technically have the assist, though, right?
I don't think so. I think I gave him the assist in the tweet or whatever, but yeah, I don't think he was given it officially.
But yeah, just that. I mean, look, he had the space again, like you said. He saw the shot, he took the shot, and it's funny at the beginning of the season before Rabiot even signed, Allegri said, "I expect 15 goals from Fofana and Loftus-Cheek." Well, if you throw in Rabiot, there's a very good chance we get the 15 goals, and he's got 14 of them. Like he's so good. I'm such a Rabiot fan. I mean, got him on the wall right there, 12, boom. I need to get Füllkrug on this one. There's no name on this jersey, but big fan of his now. Didn't think I would be. It's so nice to be wrong in the right way for once, because typically I'm hyping up the winter, and then he's letting in goals for 5 straight games, but not this week. This week it's been good. No. So. I'm very excited. Anyways,
really good. No, you're right. So that's kind of what I was getting at, is that you sort of, that is one of those wins, I think, where you kind of do let your imagination start to run a bit wild and thinking, okay, let's have a look at the upcoming games and, where we might be and how we might do. But I think importantly, as we'll come on to after the Lecce game, a bit of a gap has opened up to 5th, and it, with the coefficient league, coefficient of the leagues, Serie A is currently in 2nd at the moment. So it might actually be a top 5 qualify, in which case we're 9 clear of 6th. So all of a sudden that bit of a gap has opened up, and you think, right, we can really go for this, because the minimum objective is looking more and more like being nearly in the bank. So I'll display the stats for this game, and I think we ought to talk about the debate that's been ignited since the Jockeyster versus Resultista thing. Fabregas coming out after the game. I think it was around 700. I don't know where I've heard that before. But yeah, Fabregas came out after the game and said that we had 700 passes to their 200. Incredible. We dominated them, but it doesn't matter. We scored 1, they scored 3, and results is what they like in Italy, is what he said. So, look, I'll go out on a limb here. This is his last season with Como. I think he wants to get out of this league where his style isn't perhaps getting the rewards that he thinks it deserves, rightly or wrongly. Look, I know that the bullish Milanista stance of this is going to be, doesn't fucking matter. You can pass it all you want. You can have all the shots you want. We scored 3. We got 3 points. You shut up. But look, he's got a bit of a point. They were unlucky. on this particular night. They ran into a world-class Maignan. There's been times when we've run into a world-class goalkeeping performance and said we were unlucky. So, the shoe's kind of on the other foot there. They do play really good football. No Milan fan can watch that and say they play shit football. They obviously do have something very good going in terms of their attacking play and their pressing. And they probably will put a lot of different teams to the sword this season. It's just on this particular night, we were able to hang in there. We got a moment, a rather dubious one, if you want, that went in our favour, and we were able to be galvanised by that. And I think that that's an attribute we have that not too many other teams in the league have. And was it sour grapes from Fabregas? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I think in the heat of the battle afterwards, he's seen his team put in a fantastic performance. You see the stats there, 68% of the ball. They had a higher XG by 0.5. Big chances 2-2, which suggests, it was a more even game than thought. Although one of those big chances for us will, of course, be the penalty that was scored. 18 total shots to 7 in favour of Como. They had 8 shots on target to 4, 8 corners to 4. So you look at that stat line and say, they had us penned in the corner most of the time. But, we are the winners. Therefore, we get to celebrate while the loser explains.
Yeah, and explain they did. There was a lot. And look, so I get what you're saying, because there obviously was a lot of luck. Like you said, Maignan fucking showed up big. And they were the better team. But the other thing is, I would back that a lot more if it wasn't Allegri. This is how Allegri plays games. He knows the teams that are going to apply this amount of pressure, and he knows that, okay, we absorb for 35, 40 minutes, they're going to get exhausted, and then we can break on the counter, and we're going to get them. Now, they were probably pushing a lot longer than 40 minutes, but that's the Allegri system, right? That's Corto Muso. We know this. So it just worked out in our favor that we got 3 goals instead of, only 1. But I think there's less luck involved in this than what Fabregas is saying, only because of the Allegri system. He knows it. And that's why Allegri said before the Lecce game, he said, saying we were lucky is bullshit. It's football, blah, 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 or whatever his exact quote was. And yeah, there is luck, 100%. Ultimately, that's always going to come into play when you're absorbing pressure for long periods of the game. But I mean, we've seen it game after game this season, and we've seen it throughout his entire managerial career. This is what he does. He absorbs pressure. It looks dirty. That's why he got sacked from Juventus the second time, as they said, it's not good looking football, even though they were winning. It was just 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. And that's what he does, but it's a results business, which is what Fabregas was hinting at, is like, look, he plays a shitty game, and that's why he gets the results, which, they do love results in Italy. You know where else they love results? Everywhere, because you want to win. You want to be the title holder. You want to lift that trophy at the end of the season. Like we've always said, like everyone's always said, winner celebrates, loser explains. Fabregas wrote a thesis, and he's probably getting it graded by Allegri because he was the teacher of his coaching clinic. So,
so what you're saying is Allegri marked Fabregas's homework and gave him a try again. Good luck next time. Yeah. No, it was interesting. I found this absolutely fascinating. I said before the game I was excited for it, just to see this clash of styles, because we know that they have very different ways of approaching football. I quite like the whole, jockeys to like the those who want to play well, which is obviously Fabregas, and the resultista thing where it's Allegri, he only cares about getting 3 points by any means. I think it's probably the biggest clashing styles that you could have in the league at the moment, and it's always fascinating to see who comes out in these, comes out on top in these. I think you can make a case that like it was just like perfection, basically, from an Allegri point of view, because he did exactly what his style suggests, and honestly, he can do.
I think neutrals would enjoy this game as well. Like it really, like you said, it's a clash of 2 polar opposite styles played to near perfection from both teams. Like Como did exactly what they were instructed to do. They just only got 1 goal. Milan did exactly what they were instructed to do, and they ended up absorbing all that pressure and then scoring 3. So, like, the only thing I think from a neutral point of view that might sour a little bit is the penalty if they also miss the contact like I did. But I mean, this was, I'm not going to say an all-time classic or anything like that, but it was one of those games that I was on the edge of my seat from start to finish, probably because I'm so invested in this team and we were losing the majority of it, or at least first half. But Yeah, it was a great game, man. Great game.
I totally agree with you. I thought it was a fantastic spectacle and a great advert for the league. It's kind of funny that the typically Italian style prevailed. So any notion that the league is moving in different direction, yeah, it's just completely. Lorenzo said the same in his post-match video. It was like it was such an Italian win, and I agree with him. It really was. It was like, who's this guy trying to play this modern tippy-tappy football? No, but yeah, and I think we can also, with the grace of having 3 points in our back pocket, say Como are probably going places with the players that they have and with the ownership that they have. Fabregas as a coach is probably going places. It won't surprise me if he gets a top job in Spain, and La Liga is just a perfect fit for his style, what he's trying to do. Or he may even go to the Premier League, whatever. I think he will always have a ceiling in Serie A while he wants to play kind of exclusively this way, as maybe Atalanta found a little bit, because, Gasperini, there's some similarities there. But anyway, man of the match and worst player. Man of the match, you pick one, I'll pick the other.
Nico Paz.
Yeah.
He was fantastic. He deserves a shout. Obviously, we don't pick Como players, but it's between Rabiot and Maignan. I'll go Rabiot because 2 goals and winning a penalty. Obviously, that's at the end of the day, you got to score the goals.
Yeah, both had match-winning contributions. I think all the Frenchmen were pretty decent, to be honest, on the night. And yeah, Maignan for me then kept the saves that even kept it a contest, to be honest. He's looking like he's... Because what game? Might have been the Fiorentina one for the Camuzzo header, and a little bit for the corner on this one. There were some question marks about if he would slow off his line or whatever. Just answered all the doubts with some match saving stops, and incredible. When he's on it, it shows what he can do. Flop's a little bit more difficult, but I think I'd go Bartezaghi just because it probably wasn't his best outing generally. He didn't get too involved in our attacking play, got overrun a bit on his side, but it wasn't as bad as the other side with Baturina. And then, of course, the goal. Where I think you could have done better. I think he's a victim of the system, but also you can help yourself by picking up the main threat, which wasn't done. Okay, let's move on then. Sorry.
My turn. Bartezaghi. Just going to repeat basically what you said. But yeah, I want to give Isaac a shout out because in the chat on the goal, he immediately called out Bartezaghi. And I, again, missed it because I suck at everything. And I was like, why are you always talking shit about Bartezaghi? He's called him out on a few goals. And then I went back and watched it. And I was like, nah, that is fully on Bartezaghi. And obviously, Allegri caught it as well because he didn't play the Lecce game. So I'm not saying it was a punishment. Maybe it was just rest. He's played a lot. But one of the things to notice. So yeah, Bartezaghi.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do need to improve generally from set pieces and for that to become a positive balance. But yeah, let's move on to, I guess, the encore, whatever, at San Siro on Sunday night against Lecce. Lecce's last 2 away games had been at San Siro, as in they played Inter, basically the away game prior to playing us. And Inter took, I think it was 70 plus minutes, wasn't it, to break the deadlock. Piero Esposito got the goal. And I think we saw from that Lecce can be problematic because Di Francesco is known for being, I would say he's known for being a coach that like wants to play good football. He's got his 4-3-3, and I think he likes players that are direct. And we saw it a bit from Sotil and stuff like that. But I think he's also shown a bit more of a pragmatic side, especially when going to the bigger clubs. So you see that game against Inter, and you think, well, they can cause us problems as well then. So I predicted, I think, a 3-0 or a 4-0 in the preview. I thought there's going to be a game where we run a team over, just by taking that first chance and then going again and again and again. But Lecce kind of came into this one with a little bit of pressure because Fiorentina have picked up. Obviously, we should mention as well the passing of Rocco Commisso, who was a hair's width away from becoming our owner back in 2018 when he tabled a bid to buy the distressed asset as it was back then from Yonghong Lee, but in the end they weren't able to agree to terms on that. He said a few things afterwards that suggested he was not entirely happy with how the outcome went. We did that interview with Yonghong Lee where he told his side of the story. That was obviously years ago now, but still something that we were kind of happy to secure. And yeah, obviously he's taken his money and his passion for Italian football to Fiorentina. I think generally under his ownership, they've trended upwards. And then obviously this season has been a very, very difficult start for them. And it's just been made all the more difficult by his passing. He's in his 70s, so it's no age to go really. And There were some lovely tributes around the league, minute silences and on the scoreboard and stuff like that. Fellaini said some nice words outside the Lega Serie A meeting about how he wishes we could all have the same passion for Italian football that he had. And it's a difficult time for Fiorentina. It seems that tragedy's never far away from them,
No.
So they went and won the game afterwards. I was kind of surprised they played it, to be honest, in such quick succession, but they went to Bologna and won late on. That was just fueled by emotion. Like, there's one of those things where that just took over. That story took over, and they got that win. But what that meant down at the bottom is it compacted even further, and Lecce all of a sudden are within striking distance, just one spot above the relegation zone. And I think they might be the next to drop in, because I don't see Fiorentina doing anything other than going on a bit of a run now. But that's the context. Here's the team that we played. Sort of bit of rotation in there, mainly in the midfield line. Ricci and Jashari come in for Modric and Fofana. Rabiot stays in there. Salamanca's on the right. Back three stays the same. Estupinian in for Bartazaghi, which I think, as you said, was more just to keep fresh legs. And then finally, we see Pulisic alongside Rafael Leao once again. I don't have too many arguments with that team, perhaps with the benefit of hindsight being that Jashari and Ricci had, I thought, a couple of their better starts, but maybe we can come on to that. But it does seem to be interesting that when he seems to make these bulk changes, it's like 3 or 4 of the midfield 5 change. And I'm not sure if that's something that he'll look to do moving forward. I think it might be better to keep it as is and maybe put the one in, every now and again. But I don't know.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Jashari. I thought he looked fantastic. He's definitely going to slot right in and replace Modric in a year or two. And I don't think we're going to see much of a drop off. Not that he's, Modric level, but Modric at 41 versus Jashari, I think, is a lot closer than like prime Modric, obviously. But yeah, he did so well. I'd also like to see Modric in like an 8 role with Jashari and Rabiot, just to see it, or vice versa. But I was so impressed with Jashari. Ricci had a great game as well. I just want to get as much out of Modric as I can in his final years here. So, bit selfish there. I was happy to see Pulisic back in the lineup. I do think it's interesting because Füllkrug has been so impressive since arriving. Obviously, this is the game he got on the score sheet, but prior he had it, and he'd been very close. Was hard done to not get probably, I'd say, 3 or 4 assists in his first couple of games. One of them with Pulisic missing quite a few chances. The other game after, I think it was still Pulisic. Maybe it was Leao. I can't remember who, but so I wanted to see him from the start, and ultimately proved that he was the guy for this game. But it's tough. You want Leao and Pulisic together on the field at all times because they are our best players. I think everyone agrees on that. But when they've played together as a starting strike duo, they haven't been as good. They each are doing really well when they're the second striker alongside Nkunku or Santi or whomever. But together, they've kind of struggled. Obviously, the Inter game was the first game we saw it, and Pulisic did score, and I think Leao had the assist. And so that was like, okay, this is going to work great. But then we've seen it a few times, and it's been those kind of goose egg games from them. Not that they're like terrible together, but because they're both naturally wingers, not strikers, I think they're both slotting into the second striker role when we don't have a first striker out there, and that obviously creates difficulty. It's not that it can't be done, but if we were to do like a 3-4-3 or even a 4-3-3 and put Füllkrug in between the two, I think we could see more goals. Now, does that mess up everything else? Maybe, probably. That's, Allegri knows a lot more about football than either of us ever will, and I trust what he's doing is the right decision, but I would like to see all 3 of them from the start at least once this season, just to see how it goes. But I guess that's it. I don't have much else in the lineup.
No, I think it's an interesting discussion to have around, Leao, Pulisic as a front 2 in general, because we know that in the summer, Allegri picked the 3-5-2 first of all, picked those 2 as his starting strikers, if you like, whether one would be a second striker, one would be more of a number 9. We think he opted to sort of go with Leao as more of the typical striker and Pulisic roaming in behind. But we just haven't seen them together that much. So while it looked like it had a lot of potential in pre-season, obviously that's got to translate to competitive action. Then they had that thing with the injuries kind of running congruent to each other. One would come back, the other would go into the treatment room and stuff like that. I just don't think they've been able to build on that chemistry that we saw. I think it can work in principle. You know, if Leao does play on that last shoulder and plays as a proper striker, making those runs in behind, crashing the box, you know, I think he can do that with his size, with his speed. But first of all, he's not 100%. Pulisic is not at 100%. We know that. It keeps being said after every single game now. But I also think that in theory, he can operate in that second striker role, sort of, you know, shuttling across the edge of the 18-yard box, picking it up, linking play, bringing the wing backs in, bringing midfielders in, all things that he can do. So I think in principle it can work. The issue is that it was the third time they started together all season. And I think you saw that on the pitch, and we continue to see on the pitch that they've been robbed of a lot of minutes together because of their various physical problems. So now we're heading towards it being one game a week, a lot more time on the training ground, which should help build that chemistry back up. But while Füllkrug is playing the way that he is, and while Nkunku has, you know, he's still got 4 in 4, 4 in 3 technically, and then he blanked in the last game, but he's basically come into form. There is decisions to make, whereas before it was just like it doesn't matter how they're playing, you're playing those two because the alternatives just aren't great. So that is something worth mentioning. First half was, I guess, as you'd expect, us in control. We perhaps didn't move the ball as quick as you'd like to try and, you know, breach Lecce's low block. It was very obvious from the early stages that they'd come to put everyone behind the ball and play for a point, really. They didn't have loads going in transition, though I thought Sotil looked pretty lively on the break. We had a goal that was scored with Leao running. That was one thing that annoyed me about Leao's runs in behind, is that he was timing them so badly. He just wasn't arcing his run at all. He was just running direct, and then he was about 3 yards offside. We had that. Rabiot had a couple of headers go over from crosses, from set pieces. I just think it was, you know, pretty one-way traffic up until the break, but without us really testing Falcone that much. Pulisic had one where
I thought Falcone made a bunch of saves. I thought we tested him a lot, actually.
More in the second half. That was when we started to really dial up the pressure. The one save that he made in the first half that stood out was like Pulisic hit one low and hard, and he sort of got to it with his legs and managed to just about get it clear. But yeah, then in the second half, I think we stepped it up a bit. We went a little bit more direct. And yeah, there's not really loads to analyse here up until, I guess, the moment where Allegri had decided that he'd seen enough, and you know he made the big call, which was to bring Füllkrug on. I think we all were in the chat asking for it to have happened a little bit sooner. But I think it was clear the pattern that the game was developing into at that point, which was that they were seeding the wide areas and letting us put in ball after ball and just backing themselves to deal with anything that came in. But then, Füllkrug comes on and we're able to go a little bit more direct. We still had to wait a little bit for that goal, but I think he scored within like 3 minutes of coming on, which is as good an impact as you can hope for. And the way that games like this, I think we dropped points in games like this in recent years, and also a little bit this season, because we weren't able to have full control. You know, we weren't able to commit as many bodies forward as we probably wanted, because there's always that risk of conceding at the other end. Lecce, in that sense, kind of played into our hands, because they made it clear they didn't even have any intentions of trying to nick it at the other end. It was literally just to try and get a 0-0, as they kind of did against Inter too. So that helped us a bit. But you've got to find that one moment of quality. And for the goal, it really came. Like Rabiot showed his passing range with that gorgeous ball over the top. I say it was inch perfect because quite literally another inch and it was out of play. But Salamakers doesn't give up on it. He gets on his horse. He's bombing down the right side there. Manages to hook the cross in. And that's why you put a number 9 on. Big Nick Füllkrug nuts it into the far corner. San Siro explodes. It's one of those where I'm like, waiting for something to be wrong with the goal. Are they going to flag for the ball having gone out, or was Salamakers offside with that ball over the top? I'm just thinking this is all a bit, you know, it doesn't feel right to me. Like we've finally done it. And then, when it becomes clear that the goal's absolutely fine, some brilliant, videos going around of Füllkrug celebrating under the cover, and again the bench empty, and they all come and get around him and give him a big hug and stuff. But he said after the game, first goal in Italy, and you can't ask for a better assist than that.
Yeah, I mean, that was perfect. Like, I don't want to take anything away from Füllkrug scoring that goal, because he obviously did a great job, but the assist was so good that I'd back anyone to score that, honestly. I mean, it was picture perfect. The one thing that Füllkrug did that impressed me, that made it a bit more difficult, Falcone dives the way the ball should have gone. Like, from a typical striker, you're heading it straight, and he just slightly misdirects it towards the far post. It doesn't go all the way. It's still mostly central, but it's just enough to where Falcone is already committed and then tries to go back and get it, and he just can't. It's right there, which is good because he had predicted every shot perfectly. And like I said, 3 minutes after coming on, his first touch of the game actually was a shot on target. Falcone, another great save. And yeah, I mean, everything was perfect. We just kind of had the feeling that this was the game that Füllkrug would score in. And especially like you said, we saw the game plan. They were going to sit back. They were going to let us throw balls in. And I wonder if Allegri saw that early as well and said, let's run this for another 10 minutes. Let's get them really comfortable and think they definitely can't get one past us. And then they do it, and I always make comparisons to combat sports because that's the other thing I watch so much. But you see it often. You see a guy who's constantly throwing like a kick to the body. And then once you start seeing the other guys start getting low to block those kicks, you throw a few more until they're real comfortable. They know, okay, we're always blocking. He goes in the body. And then you throw one up top and you catch him. And it was just like one of those moments where Allegri baited him perfectly. In my opinion, that's the way I saw it. But when I look at these stats, we had 3.4 XG in this game. And the second half was 2.91. So like you said, it really was the second half. We were just peppering them. I mean, the guy being Falcone, of course, was just incredible. And in fact, he got man of the match on FotMob. Which is rare when you're on the losing side, but 5 saves is very good. It says he had 3.22 expected goals on target faced. So I mean that's crazy. In fact, they gave flop of the match to Maignan because he didn't have to do anything. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah, a couple of the someone in our comments, because I did the ratings for this one on the site. Someone in the comments said, "Why have you given Maignan above a 4? He could have sat there in a deck chair." It's like, yeah, fair enough. We're paying him for doing what work exactly? I think he earned his money in the Como.
He earned it from Como,
yeah. But no, we had plenty of chances in the build up to this, just as you were saying about the XG there in the second half. We seemed to constantly get down the left side of the box, and there were all these cutbacks happening. One where Salamakers takes a bit too much of a bad first touch. There was of course, the Leao through ball to Pulisic. Lovely. It should have been another assist from him there. Pulisic opens his body up. Falcone makes a really good save. Cut back from Estupinian, who I don't think he was as bad as people are making out, to be honest. And he probably could have had a couple of assists on another day. But Rabiot, this time he hooks it way over the bar from quite a good position. We did just create. We breached the box regularly, and we can talk about it with not as much anger, given that we obviously found a way to win the game. But had the outcome been different, I think, that you look back at a lot of those chances and say that these players have got to do better when the service comes in. But yeah, we got the goal. We could have perhaps had a couple more on the break later on. I actually gave my flop of the match in the ratings to Nkunku, and I'm going to stick with it because I think that it was a real opportunity for him, given when the goal went in and the fact that he was then staying up as the last man to basically be able to run into open space and kill the game off for us. And he had 2 chances to do it. One where he gets the Luka Modric volley outside of the boot, ball over the top, and then Nkunku's running to the box. I'm thinking he's got it on his right foot. He's going to bend it in, and he just seemed to stop and check back and get tackled. And I thought that was really weird. Then there was another one that he missed inside the box. So, I kind of stick with that. But basically, it could have been a slightly wider margin of victory in the end. But we get the 3 points. We saw out the game with relative ease. And importantly, I guess, as mentioned, we responded to Inter, who beat Udinese away earlier in the weekend. Napoli had beaten Sassuolo. Juve lost to Cagliari, so we were able to build a bit of a gap to them. And yeah, as I say, we're 7 points off fifth and 9 points off sixth now. So while we haven't made any ground on Inter, the whole situation in terms of our top four spot feels a little bit less perilous, shall we say. Man of the match?
I want to give it to Füllkrug because it was his first goal. It was fantastic, and just seeing his character is cool. I told you in the chat, but one of the guys I work with, he is a licensed UEFA coach, and he was born and raised in Dortmund, grew up in their academy system, and knew Füllkrug. Obviously, they didn't play at the same time. The guy's older, but he knew him, and he called me right like a week or two ago. And he's like, hey, Füllkrug is going to be great for Milan. Like, he's going to do a perfect job. You're going to love him. He's so selfless. Like, he's always going to make the right pass, right move. He may not score a ton of goals, but he's always going to be in the right place. And I was like, okay, we'll see, whatever. He was right. And I've just, even the way he responded to his goal, like you said, like, you couldn't ask for a better assist for your debut goal. Like, and he's been very gracious and everything. And I think he's just really grateful to be at a club like Milan, especially coming from a club like West Ham. So I want to give the Füllkrug, but I think Salamakers was kind of all over the place in the right way. He was everywhere, and he had that crazy assist. I think I give it to Salamakers.
Yeah. I gave it to Salamakers in the ratings. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. He was, as we know, up and down the flank all game, and then he provides that moment of quality. So yeah, I gave it to him, but I think Füllkrug shows exactly why we've brought him in. He's a right place, right time kind of striker, but he's been getting more and more involved, and you sort of felt that the goal was coming, and it comes in that way. And brilliant for him to be the match winner to score his first goal at San Siro as well. That'll be a moment that he never forgets. And we should also mention the fact that he's been playing with a broken toe. So it was looking like at first being a month out, and then it became 10 days he might be back for Roma, and then it's like he's going to play through the pain. And Gazzetta said he's been loaded up on painkillers. One of the papers said he's been loaded up on painkillers, but he's like, I don't want to miss a game that I have for this team. So, he's been playing, he's found a solution. They're pretty heavily strapped up from the pictures and the videos that circulated. He gave that interview after the game where one of the journalists says to him in English, what's the mystery with your broken toe? Obviously saying, how have you come back so fast from it? And he was like, there's no mystery. It's a broken toe. I thought it was a good video. And then, of course, I think it was the night before or maybe night prior to that, he had 500 grand worth of belongings nicked from his safe in his hotel room in I think it's in Fiera Milano, like that sort of region. So that's not good, because it's something that doesn't help the settling in process, which is difficult enough. But yeah, he deserved that moment 100% for everything. And I think he's been a breath of fresh air for our attack, definitely offering something different, and long may it continue. Okay, let's move on then. Did you say flop? No, you didn't.
I didn't, but I also don't want to name one. I like the whole team, but yeah.
Good. Okay, Roma then. We'll try and get through this quickly.
We got another
how many games have Roma drawn this season?
I don't know. 7? 1?
0.
One or the other? 0, really? They have 0 draws?
They have not drawn a game yet. They have no draws in. Well, obviously they've got no draws in Serie A. They have won 14 and lost 7, which puts them on 42 points. In the Coppa Italia, they lost to Torino in the round of 16 at home, 3-2. So no draw there. And in Europe, they have lost 2 and won 4. So across all 3 competitions, that's what. 29 games. They have not drawn one of them yet. So yeah, they're coming into this on the back of 3 2-0 victories in a row against Lecce away, Sassuolo at home, and Torino away in the most recent round. They do actually have a European fixture on Thursday night at home to Stuttgart. And they need to win out to get into the top 8 of the Europa League phase. So they will, of course, be taking that very seriously, which I think plays into our hands a little bit there. But if you look at the games that Roma have lost this season, for me, it shows where their limitations are. As I said, they've lost 7 games. They lost 1-0 to Inter, 1-0 to Torino prior to that. 1-0 to us, obviously, in the reverse fixture, 1-0 at home to Napoli, 1-0 away at Cagliari, 2-1 away at Juventus, 1-0 away at Atalanta. So basically, in most of the 6-pointer games, they've come up short and they've also failed to score. So yeah, it's been a really strange season for Roma. Of course, they're currently managed by Gianpiero Gasperini, and his identity has almost flipped 180 because we know about his Atalanta sides averaging 3 goals a game and playing incredible attacking football. This Roma team have scored 26 goals in 21 games, but have only let in 12. So defensively, they're the best in the league by quite some distance. They want revenge for the defeat at San Siro earlier in the season when Dybala misses the penalty, and they'll probably feel like on the balance play they deserved something from that. How are you feeling about this one?
Well, so like I said, it's a head-to-head game. I'm always confident that we're better than Roma. Doesn't mean we always beat them. I'm nervous that like we won or drew. We didn't lose, obviously, any of our head-to-heads in the first half of the season. We won all of them except for Juve. That was a 0-0 draw that we should have won because we missed a penalty. I'm not naive enough to say I think we're gonna clean sheet the head-to-heads again in the second half of the season. So that's something where I'm like, is this the game? Now I look, and they obviously have a midweek European game 3 days prior to our match, and then one 4 days after. So they're not clear in Europa League. Like they're fighting to get in that top 8 spot to go directly through, which I think is going to be important to them. But obviously, you're going to prioritize Champions League and finishing those spaces over, going through in Europa League. But I don't know. I feel like we can still do it. It's been a while since we've done a double over Roma, or especially Gasperini in general. Also knowing that Napoli play Juve on the same day. If we win this and then that's a draw, like we are sitting so pretty. That's why I think this one's critical. Like I think we go all out, and luckily we do have the 14 days of rest immediately afterwards. All the teams around us have a game in between now and then and a game after. So it's ours to lose. I mean, everything plays in our favor in this one. Is this one's away?
Yeah, away.
Yeah, so that kind of sucks, but I feel like we kind of do well at the Olimpico outside of Coppa Italia finals. We tend to show up there against these two teams. And remember a few seasons ago when we conquered Rome in 3 days or whatever it was, both Lazio, Roma back to back. That was so nice. I want to say we do it again. I'll say 2-1. I don't think because the last game we were the worst team and then we just pulled up, right? Like Maignan was big and then we got lucky with Pavlovic making one of those crazy runs and scoring, and then obviously Mike saved a Dybala penalty. They got Daniel Malin now, which he's a good striker. He scored in his debut, so it'll be a totally different game, and I don't know if that benefits Roma or not. But I'm gonna predict 2-1 in our favor because we're 20 games unbeaten, and it'd be silly to predict the loss at this point. But also, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I'm just looking back at our record here. We've lost. We lost there last season in the league 3-1, obviously, as things were unfurling, but we've basically traded wins and losses for quite a while now. We had a good run under Pioli through the COVID era and stuff where we didn't lose to Roma in 10 games, that is. But yeah, since then it feels like it's swung a little bit. And then in the mid-2010s, they used to beat us nearly every time when there was, quite a big gap between the two teams. It feels tougher with it being at the Olimpico, definitely. It'll probably be a sellout and it'll be quite a hostile crowd because, ultimately they're not that far behind us. They're in 4th place at the moment and they're 4 points behind us. So with a win, they'll feel like they'll be right on our tails, which they would be. So yeah, I think this will be a tough game. This will be a really, really tough game against a team that might actually play more similar to us than you'd have presumed at the start of the season, in terms of them being happy to take the 1-0s and the 2-0s. In their last game against Torino, they played a 3-4-2-1 system. Svilar in goal, Hermoso, who picked up an injury, so will be out for this one. I don't know who came on to replace him, but yeah, they'll have to make a change at centre back there. Ndika and Mancini was the back three. Wrench at right wing back, Wesley at left wing back, Kone and Cristante as the holding midfielders, Pellegrini and Dybala behind Marlon. Now, that's a pretty good attacking trio. I'm surprised that they haven't scored more goals this season. Matthias Süle has been the main man for them in terms of attacking output. He's got 10 goal contributions in the league, 6 goals, 4 assists. Evan Ferguson, who they, of course, signed and was struggling to stay fit. He's come into a bit of form, 3 goals, 2 assists. Dybala, we know he loves a goal against Milan, but this season he's perhaps not played as many minutes as they would have hoped. So yeah, there are threats in this team. I might predict the first draw. They can't keep going like this, can they? Can they go an entire season without a draw in any competition? I don't think so. I think everything points towards this being a 1-1 or a 0-0. I don't think it'll be a hammering either way. So I'll go with a 1-1. And I think maybe we score another late equaliser. It's really hard to call this. Really hard to call. One of the toughest ones so far. Because I think Roma had just a little bit of a dip and everyone thought, right, that's them out of the picture. Mm-hmm. And actually they've responded quite well. And they've sort of got back to it there. But as I said, they won their last 3 games, scoring 6 and not conceding 1. So, yeah.
This is one of those weird times of the season where, like, when you look at the table, there's 2 ways you look at a head-to-head like this. Is from Roma's point of view, you think, sit back, take the draw because we're in a comfy spot. But then you look at the games around you and you think this could be a huge scalp and give us a lot of breathing room on Juve or Napoli. Like, so they might be very much up for it. The only reason I think they'd be okay with the draw is they go, well, we're definitely not winning the Scudetto, but we're good in Champions League right now. Places, that is. But also, it's Gasperini. He does not like Milan, and it's a head-to-head and chance to avenge earlier loss in the season. So I could see them being more up for it than us. I think we might sit back for it, which seems to be Allegri's, golden goose. We score when we do that. So I'm sticking with 2-1, but there is 0 result that would shock me in terms of win-loss draw. Score lines, there's plenty, but.
Yeah, tough one. Let us know your thoughts, as always, in the comments if you think it's a good matchup for us or a bad matchup. We'll leave it there because we've rambled on past an hour again, but nice to be able to cover a couple of victories. And we are back early next week with the next main pod to recap the big game against Roma. And we're back later this week with the latest bonus episode, of course, topic to be decided. May have to be something on the ownership situation with the news that's come out about the refinancing of the vendor loan and stuff like that. It might be good to break that down for people and what it might mean. But in the meantime, I've been your host, Oli Fisher. Find me on Twitter at Oli Fisher. AJ, cheers for joining.
See you guys next time.
Have a good week, everyone.